Do you want Detroit sports talk done right? Yeah! If you want it, you got it. It's Detroit sports talk with attitude. It's the Knee Jerks with Eno and Big Al.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like at this time to introduce to you one of the finest running backs in the United States of America, and our number one pick, Barry Sanders.
Here's Isaiah. Let's see what we got. All the way up. Go!
We might not be in your car or on your transistor radio, but we're bringing you the best of Detroit sports past, present, and future. It's time for the Knee Jerks with two guys who know Detroit sports. Here's Greg Eno and Al Beaton.
It's October 5th, 2021, the first day of the Major League Baseball playoffs, but it's always time for the Knee Jerks, Detroit sports talk of Eno and Big Al. I'm Big Al, the equation, Al Beaton, longtime Detroit-based podcaster and blogger. Joining me, as always, is the man who knows a lot of things about a lot of things. I think knows everybody in the EMU PR department, and is sitting in the dark right now as he is outside enjoying what's left of our decent weather, and that would be Greg Eno of the Out of Bounds blog. Greg, what's up?
Al, I'm not totally in the dark. I do have my lighted umbrella, so I can't see. But if we were doing the video, you could see that I am lit up. Not lit up with alcohol. That comes later, but lit up with the lights. You can read me, of course, on my WordPress Out of Bounds blog. Check that out. Pretty much have everything for you, something for you every week. Yesterday I wrote a piece about AJ Hinch and how he's flexing his muscles power-wise with the Tigers. Follow me on Twitter at Greg Eno. Follow the Knee Jerks on Twitter at the Knee Jerks. We have the special guest tonight. Our good friend, Eastern Michigan football coach Chris Creighton is here. We'll be talking about the season so far. We're fortunate to talk to Coach during the season. Usually it's
can we put him on the official friend of the show list at this point?
I think we can.
Yeah.
I think we can, yes. And so he'll be here talking about the season so far, the contract extension he got over the summer, and a bunch of other stuff that we're going to get into him with. So stay tuned for that. We've got some Tigers to talk about. Of course, the Lions, as always, a little bit of Red Wings. But before we get to any of that, let's play a game that we like to call Whose Birthday Is It, Maestro?
We baked you a birthday cake. If you get a tummy ache and you moan and groan and woe, don't forget we told you so. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Everybody knows how I play this game by now. I'll give Al a clue or two or three of an individual whose birthday it is today in the world of sports. And if Al can correctly guess that person within the first two clues, he'll receive a chia pet of his choice.
Oh my goodness, a chia pet! I'll put that next to the clapper and my ShamWow and and the slap chop.
Oh God! This person Al made his name in the world of hockey. I figure this is the hockey season is about to start. We'll do that. He was born in this state in 1965. This is a tough one because of who he is. It's hard for me to give clues without giving him away, but he is one of the all-time greatest players of all time, I will tell you that. Certainly a Hall of Famer. Played his entire career with one team. And he was born in Montreal and ended up being an executive as well.
Oh, God. You know what? I'm not even sure at this point. You know, I've been on a roll with some of these ones, nailing them pretty early, but
you sure have, yeah.
Yeah, not this one. I think I'm gonna pass on the $25 question and wait for the $50 question. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. So, all right, with that, Greg, why don't you introduce our next guest?
Chris Creighton has been the head coach of Eastern Michigan University's football program since, believe it or not, 2014. He's now entering his 8th season in Ypsilanti, and his team right now is off to a 3-2 start. They play a homecoming game this Saturday against Miami, and so things are going pretty well there. They've made a few bowl games under Coach Creighton, have not won yet, which we'll get into, and we'll talk about how he's brought that program back from the brink of disaster, and his contract extension that he received for his efforts, and we'll get into all that. Let's talk to Coach Chris Creighton in a pre-recorded interview. We'll roll that for you right now. Well, I guess we can officially call Eastern Michigan football coach Chris Creighton a friend of the Knee Jerks. This is, his fourth or fifth appearance on the program.
I'm losing track. He's on so often. So
I know it's going to be the Chris Creighton show with Greg Eno and Al Beaton. But anyway, a coach is here from Eastern Michigan. He was kind enough to join us through the efforts of Greg Steiner over there at the SID department. He made it happen, and here we are. Coach, thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to this.
As do we. This is a treat because we don't often get a chance to talk to you during the football season. We know how busy this is for you, so extra thanks for that because we typically talk to you off season or so forth or after the season. So to do this in the heart of the football season while it's going on, as you guys prepare for a big time homecoming game this week, we really appreciate that. I can't believe this is your 8th year at Eastern, and I want to get into that right away. Yeah, I know. I want to get into this because, it seems like we just talked about this when you first got the job. But when you look back at 8 years ago, and did you have any idea of A, that you'd be here 8 years later, and B, is this rejuvenation? And that's what I'm using. The word I'm using, rejuvenation of the program at Eastern. Is it on track for you? Did you think you'd be in a different place after 8 years, or are you about where you thought you'd be? Talk about the 8 year thing.
Yeah, no, it has been an adventure. I mean, in some ways, it really seems as though, not that I've just got here, but that we're still, I don't want to say getting started, but just getting into a rhythm, and it doesn't feel like it's been a long time at all. And then, there's guys coming back to homecoming now that, are married and have kids and have been out for 6 and 7 years, and it's like, man, I've been here a long time. So it's, I'll tell you, I had no idea how long things would take, to be honest with you. I just was and still am convicted that we could make this football program something that people could be, genuinely proud of. And I, the vision was and is, for within the department, at the university in Ypsilanti, and then, honestly, in this region of the country. And we are still passionately pursuing, trying to make that happen. And so we didn't come in and say, hey, in 2 months, we're going to win the team over. And in 4 months, we're, going to start spring practice. And in 8 months, we're going to win, 5 straight. And in 2 years, it's, we're going to have a brand new shiny building. It's not, I'd never have had a plan like that. It's been more of a vision and a conviction, that we can, make what I just said happen. And, we're hard at work. And when you look back, I think that there's been some significant progress. And at the same time, we talk about it with our team. We talk about it recruiting. I mean, we have not hoisted trophies. We've not played in confetti. There is still so much more for us to achieve and to become. Because, a lot of the pride piece has to do with off the field. It's not just all on the field. So that's what I would tell you.
When we talked to you last, it was at the end of the 2019 season, after the bowl game against Pitt. And one of the things that struck me that you said that night was you told us about the walk leading up to the into the stadium that night, and the sea of green that you saw both outside the stadium and in the stadium, and how much that meant to you and how much that meant to the players. And you mentioned a few minutes ago about, getting things back to respectability and getting people to respect the program and so forth. I can tell you that not only as an alumnus, but as an observer of college football, that you have indeed accomplished that much. But like you said, there's still that white whale out there, which is not winning a bowl game despite several trips. I know that's not what – I know you're going to tell me that's not as important as we might make it out to be, but is that not still something that kind of sticks in your craw that you've beaten down this door, but you can't – or you knocked on the door, but you haven't quite beaten it down yet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, we absolutely want to win bowl games. We want to win MAC championships. Everybody wants that. I really believe that we can and that we will. And again, I don't have a timeline on it. I believe in this current football team. I promise you that. We are just wholeheartedly determined, to be our best. And we believe that our best is good enough to do those things. But I'll tell you, it's at the same time, it's really, really hard. And there are a bunch of other programs that work really hard and care deeply and want it badly as well. I will tell you, just being homecoming week, first of all, the loss to Pitt in the Quick Lane Bowl with, just the unbelievable crowd and support is my biggest, I don't know how you say it, my biggest loss of my career. And the reason why I say that, is because I still think there would be, 28,000 Eastern Michigan fans on the floor of Ford Field today celebrating 2 years later.
Probably right.
I can't let that go. I just know that people would have been on that field and that we never would have left. And so that's a hard one. That
might have been, and I'm not saying this to make you feel any worse, but that might have been as big of a loss, as big of a gut punch to the Eastern alumni and supporters of the program as the California Bowl victory in '87 was a, injection of elation.
Sure.
That what Coach Harkema did and Ronnie Adams and those guys out there against all odds, and that the jubilation that they felt was, you just flip it around 180 degrees to the feeling you guys must have had. I know that was a tough loss. You're right. That was a tough one. We're talking with Eastern Michigan head football coach Chris Creighton on the Knee Jerks. I'm Greg Eno from my WordPress Out of Bounds blog, and Big Al, of course, is here. Al Beaton. We'll bring him in a second. Can't let you go without talking about the big contract extension you signed. I'm not going to get into the money. I don't care about that. What I want to talk about is the commitment that the university showed you, and that doesn't. I know you don't take that for granted because that does not happen all the time in your business. So talk about that commitment that the university made to you and what that does for you as a coach.
Oh, I felt called to be here. My wife and I felt that, and and that has not changed. And we absolutely love the challenge, that this opportunity has been. Our kids now have, been raised here, and been here 8 years, like you said, and it is it's unfinished. It's unfinished, and so I'll tell you, I really appreciate the fact that that the university feels the same way. And that means a heck of a lot because you're right. It's, there is a business side to this profession. When I got into coaching college football, many moons ago, there wasn't money involved, and, there was one college football game on TV a week, it was just very different. So it's become something different than what I had signed up for. And so I absolutely don't take for granted the opportunity we have to continue to lead the program.
Let's bring Big Al in. Al Beaton, what you got for Coach Creighton?
Yeah, I just want to touch base a little bit on your football team right now, and that you have your quarterback Ben Bryant, who's actually having a pretty darn good season. Obviously, he had big shoes to fill. He was a transfer from the University of Cincinnati, and he's having a pretty nice year. Can you give us a little thoughts of him having to step in and take over a leadership role coming in through the transfer portal?
Yeah, so Preston Hutchison was our team MVP last year. Mm-hmm. But we did not have depth at all at the quarterback position. And so, Ben knew that, Preston was coming back. but that he would also have a chance to compete, to be the guy. I mean, everybody in our program's got a chance. We're going to play, whoever we think is doing the best job. And so those guys are two great human beings, and we had a fantastic winter, spring, and summer, and all of a sudden game week gets on you, and, those guys have been rotating all the way through. And so we played them both in the first couple of games, and Ben was more productive in the first couple of games, and so we played most of the third game and really had a big game. And so he's really done well. Was in a great program at Cincinnati and behind a pretty good quarterback, and just wanted the chance to compete, to play, and has found that here and is off to a tremendous start. And from the head coaching position, we have two really good quarterbacks, and you need to.
Right.
I mean, you're ever down on the sideline, a Division I college football game. I mean, these guys, it's an obvious statement, but they're really big and strong and run really fast, and they don't slow down when they hit each other. So, actually, Preston's been banged up, and so, already we're not even halfway through the season. And so anyway, we're in a much better place than we were last year.
And just to follow up on it a little bit, how has the transfer portal changed how you recruit? 'Cause it seems like it gives you an opportunity to find some really talented players.
Yeah, it does. It's, it just ends up being sort of another vehicle, right? I mean, there's the traditional high school, there's junior college, which we've spent a considerable, amount of time with, and then now there's the transfer portal. And, I think that you've got to have a philosophy and know that and believe it. But for everybody, the transfer portal is new. I mean, it's this is really this year is really the first year when that thing has really kind of blown up, and it's going to be very, very interesting, to see how that continues to affect the game. So I'm, we're the rules are the rules, and so we're going to follow them, and we're going to try to make it our advantage, in every way that we can. I really hope that our culture is so strong that that guys want to be here, those that are here now, and anybody who's it's not working out somewhere else. At the same time, one of the things that I love about football, and this is probably not really popular and not great to say for recruiting and all that, but it's what I believe, is that one of the reasons why I think football, sports in general, but football is such a powerful game is because it's hard. And, people don't want to hear this, but it is good for them to have to struggle in a program and, be on the scout team or, have to rehabilitate an injury, not travel when you want to. All of those things are incredibly painful. But they're all, if handled the right way, good. And the transfer portal, unfortunately, is just a microcosm of society. And, the quick fix, the grass is greener and whatnot, I think ultimately is probably not what's best. So those are my thoughts.
Interesting. We're talking with Eastern Michigan football coach Chris Creighton here on the Knee Jerks. I'm Greg, from my WordPress Out of Bounds blog, and that was, you heard Big Al Beaton a few minutes ago. This season so far, a couple of tough losses, one in Wisconsin, and when Eastern plays a Big Ten school, it's not a given that the Big Ten school is going to come out on top. I mean, your record against Big Ten schools, all on the road, of course, has been pretty darn good. Lost to Wisconsin. But I want to talk about this Northern Illinois loss. I mean, I know that's got to really eat at you because it's a conference opponent. It was a winnable game, I thought. I know you're on the road and so forth. I know that's even more of an impetus to come back home on Saturday and take care of business against Miami. But just kind of talk a few moments about that Northern Illinois game. What went wrong? What happened there?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, the reality of the MAC is that if you prepare well during the week and then play really hard, play smart, and play well on Saturday, you got a chance to win. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking for every team in the MAC. I mean, they're just, to me, is not, some dominant team that can show up and play well for a half. It's just not, that's not who we are as a league. Mm-hmm. And, the vice versa is true, right? So if, you're not playing complimentary football, if you turn the ball over too many times, if, something is out of sync, or, it's just one of those kind of dead air days where the energy's just not there or whatever, you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to lose. And, we played well on special teams. We played well defensively, and we played well offensively for a half, and it was the second half, and put our defense in we, threw a batted ball, pick six, and, fumbled the ball and gave it to them in our own territory. And they took advantage of that, and too big of a hole to, not enough time to come back and to get right. So it was, both teams had the same lightning delay. It was a 2 hour and 45 minute delay. Right. It's, the thing that's tough about that is, they're in 30-minute or less increments, right? Because as soon as there's a lightning strike, you get delayed. We had 15 resets. Wow. So it's really tough to know how to handle that with your team. Right. I mean, you tell them to take off their pads. You order sandwiches for them to eat, Right. And so, but having said all that, because both teams endure the same thing, right? I just offensively, we weren't able to flip the switch when it was go time again. I just didn't feel as though we were able to respond right away.
Now you got a game against Miami this week at home. Of course, it is homecoming. We refer to that. What about this Miami team concerns you?
Oh, everything. I mean, they're
typical coach. Typical coach.
Yeah, but I mean, so Coach Martin, I think, got that job maybe a week or two before I came to Eastern Michigan, and his recruiting, I think, has been really good. I think they've figured out, who the kind of people that fit that school and his program, and they're very well coached. And yeah, so I mean, their defense, I'd start with that, especially their front. I think they have a lot of talented, well-coached, high motor guys in their front. And then their secondary is really good as well. And then offensively, I mean, they won the league a couple years ago with a freshman quarterback who is back. And I mean, he's got guys to throw to and guys to hand it off to. And then their offensive line is maybe younger than it's been, but still really good. So, but it is, it's one of those deals where if we play really, really well, then we're gonna have a chance to win, and if we're not hitting on all cylinders and, or anything like that, it's going to be really hard to win.
Sounds like Coach Nethery, your defensive coordinator, is going to have his hands full. So it's sort of the way you're talking. Yeah,
no, I mean, they're pretty good. I mean, their quarterback, they're pretty good. So, we're going to try to keep the ball in front of us and make them earn it and try to take it away. So we'll come to play.
We're talking with Eastern Michigan football coach Chris Creighton. We've got a few minutes left with him here on the Knee Jerks. I'm Greg Eno. Let's bring Big Al back in. What you got for Coach Creighton?
We had basketball coach Stan Heath on the show a few months back and talked about his experiences and coming into this job. I just wonder if you've had any, if you've run across Stan, if you've had some chats with him, and what's your feelings on the new head basketball coach at Eastern Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be able to meet him in the interview process. And I know I talked to our athletic director, later that night, and I was like, it's a home run. It was, like, wow. I really enjoyed, first meeting him then, and then he's been great. He's been out on the road recruiting and has run into some of the guys that we're recruiting or knows somebody at the school and whatnot, and has reached out and, I really am excited about our relationship and following our basketball team, excited about this first season. And I think he's going to do really good things for not only the program but the university.
What do you think, Coach, the perception as you go around the league, and I know you talk to people and so forth, and I'm sure you have candid conversations with maybe people who are even outside of the MAC, but what is your impression of people's impression of Eastern football at this point versus when you took it over in 2014?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question for all those people that you're asking, but I think people feel as though that we have a toughness about us. And I think that it's a combination, from talking to people of, how hard our guys play. But then also, I think our mental toughness is something that people take note of. We've gone through some stretches where, things haven't gone our way in the last 8 years and whatnot. And this team, or I should say the program, just has never broken. We're always going to bounce back and play really hard. And I think that, that's something that we're proud of. And I just think, the factory and the parking lot with the great field and, right. All of those things, I think that there is a toughness, to our program. And, the other thing I do, it's often hard for people to really know the character or the heart, of the guys on the team. But, I'm super proud of this. It's that we just have really, really good people, in our program, people on our staff and the support staff and in the program. And, I don't know. I think that, that's something that just with, other programs, people are familiar and whatnot, see and know that as well.
Do you watch football when you're not coaching football? I mean, do you sit down on a Sunday afternoon and watch the NFL, or do you watch a college game that may be on during the middle of the week when you're not playing? I'm always curious about guys like you who are just, live, eat, and breathe football as their job. But do you ever just sit down and watch a football game as a fan or as a lazy Sunday afternoon?
Well, no, not on Sundays. I mean, the NFL I don't get to see at all.
Okay.
But so here's a time where the Friday night games, when we're away, mm-hmm. and we have our team meeting, we've got an optional chapel on Friday evening, and then I definitely turn the college game on Friday evening when we're away. Okay. And then after the season, if there's the bowl situation, you might have 3 weeks to practice and whatnot. So, right. And you're on the road recruiting, but so usually catch, some of the playoffs of the NFL, mm-hmm. And whatnot. But yeah, during the season, I mean, we're watching football all the time, but it's not television football.
But do you ever watch it as a fan? I mean, do you ever just enjoy a football game, or is it so much part of what you do that you can't even enjoy it?
Well, no, I mean, I think you can. I mean, I think you can. Like on those Friday evenings, when you're just getting a breath of fresh air, the week's over at that point. And, I mean, I'd turn the TV on and watch the games and enjoy it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You're not breaking it down in your head and saying, gosh darn it, the guy should have done this and should have done that. And
well, yeah, there's always a part of that. I mean, you might see a good idea, or it might be a friend, right? Who's coaching or whatever, and all that. Yeah. So, but no, it's good.
Well, Coach, I know we got to let you go. You got another engagement. We were fortunate to spend the last half hour with you. Thanks so much for doing this. You know that we've always got your back, and we love what you're doing over there. And you always got a friend in us, and we wish you all the luck in the world the rest of the season.
I really appreciate it. It's fun talking to you guys, and I hope you guys have a great one.
Thanks, Chris. Take care, buddy.
Well, that was fun. It's always interesting talking to Coach, even though you were grilling him on if he spends his off time watching football. But give the guy a break. He probably wants just to sit down and enjoy a night off, because those guys,
Yeah.
Seriously though, football coaches, especially at that level, when you get to the Division I level, it just seems like to be such an all-consuming gig, and you really, really, really have to love it because you love it to deal with the sacrifices you have to make. And, because
recruiting and I don't know when his family sees him and when he sees his family.
And they always have to be on, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, tonight, for example, he had a 7:30 call. I can't remember what kind of a call he said. 7:30 on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Which was work related, of course. So.
Those guys, it's which is why I was surprised that what the hell was Urban Meyer doing in a bar during football season? Obviously, that's been one of the big topics of discussion the last couple of days, of him being filmed being ground on by a young woman that wasn't his wife. And what's funny, my first thought wasn't, what is Urban Meyer doing with this woman? My thought is, what is an NFL football coach doing in a bar during the season when these guys are known for working 20-hour days?
Right. That's true. That's true.
All right, but all right, we'll get back to football because we have a lot of Lions stuff to talk about. So much has gone down with the Lions, Greg, since we last spoke. But we wanted to do a quick post-mortem on the Detroit Tigers as their season just came to an end a couple days ago. They wrapped up the season in Chicago. As Chicago was preparing to make the playoffs, and as we are talking. The AL wildcard game is going to be have its first pitch in about a half hour. But Tiger season is over, unlike the playoff teams. But much like the Pistons, Greg, this was a season for the Tigers where I think for the most part the fan base is very, very happy with the progression, with the advancement they've seen with this team, especially if some of the young players are, starting to blossom into true big leaguers, and they actually have what looks like maybe one of the best managers in baseball. And there's a lot of talk now of this team ramping things up, speeding up the rebuild, or as I think Avila said not long ago, like at the All-Star break, the rebuild is over. We are now ramping things up. We want to build a winning team, and that leads to Avila, Tigers general manager, did speak today. After the 77-85 third place season. And obviously the team has obvious holes, and they're all obvious. You could be a blind man and see the holes the Tigers have. They have some holes in the rotation. They have a gaping maw at shortstop, and honestly, they could probably use another bat or two. But when Avila spoke today, and what's looming over this team, Greg, are injuries, and that is kind of forcing their hand into how they're going to approach this offseason, specifically Spencer Turnbull, who had thrown a no-hitter this year and actually was blossoming into a solid number 2, number 3 kind of starter. He's going to likely miss all of next season due to Tommy John surgery. Matt Boyd, who is out until at least June thanks to flexor tendon surgery, he might not even be in the team at all next year because he is arbitration eligible and he is a definite non-tender candidate. You also have another Tommy John surgery in Jake Rogers, which is going to affect the catching position, obviously, because he was having a nice little breakout season. You could really tell, if you look at the stats, that pitching on that team was better when Rogers was behind the plate than any of the other Tiger catchers. And obviously Eric Haas, hits a ton of home runs, but doesn't do much of anything else, and he's tailing off at the end of the year. So those were two of the glaring holes that Avila brought up today, along with obviously shortstop. And with shortstop, Greg, there was a rumor report from early this week that the Tigers were one of a handful of teams to show serious interest in Carlos Correa, the free agent shortstop, soon to be free agent shortstop of the Astros, who obviously has a history of AJ Hinch. And Correa is a great ball player, still in his 20s, coming off I believe a 5.8 WAR season, and he would obviously fill two roles with the team, in that you could plug him at shortstop for the next decade, and you could also plug him in the middle of the order, which this team desperately needs a big middle of the order bat. So Avila did when Avila brought all this up, and he did mention that I think what was obvious, what he said is that he called catching an area of concern. With pitching, I think the quote was, I would say an established starter would be a necessity. So I talk about laying your cards on the table right there. And then when it came to, I don't know what we could say about shortstop, about spending in general. Avila said, I would caution you, this is not going to be spending like a drunken sailor. This is going to be a very measured process, I should say. And I guess the one that kind of raised the red flag because Correa is, he's going to want Machado, Harper kind of money, Tatis type money, where you're talking $300 million plus, because you're getting a guy in his 20s. I think he's 27, 28, and you're going to have him for his prime years. So that kind of, but Avila has also said they're willing to spend. We just don't know how they're going to spend. Are they going to target that one big guy? Are they going to sign like 8 Robbie Grossmans? I don't know. And that's still kind of a concern. So, all in all, for all the vitriol that Avila has gotten for the past several years, he's been kind of vindicated ever since that awful April ended, and the Tigers have played pretty entertaining baseball ever since. So where do you fall on all this? What the Tigers should do, what Al Avila said, and where you think how they're gonna proceed this offseason?
People are, globbing onto what
the drunken sailor comment.
Well, not the drunken sailor. Well, not so much that, but the notion that we don't have to make a big splash. He kind of took a little umbrage about using that word.
Yeah.
But I didn't really read too much into that. I'm not concerned about the Tigers not spending money. I'm really not. I know what Avila is saying, we don't have to make a big splash, but that'll all be forgotten when they hold a press conference and they announce Carlos Correa as their new shortstop.
Or Trevor Story or Marcus Seaman or whomever. Yeah.
Now,
not Javi Baez. I don't want him, but he's also a possibility. So,
well, when you look at Correa, it's time now to pay this guy. I mean, come on. I mean, he's been underpaid for a number of years now. This is his shot now. If you're in the Correa camp, this is his shot to really, have somebody pay the piper. Now, having said that, this is a guy that solves a lot of problems with one stroke of the pen. He obviously solves the shortstop gaping hole. He brings that middle of the order bat that you were talking about. He brings that AJ Hinch connection, which can't hurt. He's won a championship. He checks off so many boxes. He's 27. Mm-hmm. He checks off so many boxes. Right. That sometimes when you give a guy that kind of dough, now when you talk about extending or adding on like they did with Cabrera when he was into his 30s, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about giving a guy like Correa, who by the way has proven to be for the most part major injury free. Now he's missed some games, yes. He hasn't played. He's only played 150 games once,
right?
But I don't get the impression that he's injury prone per se. Mm-hmm. He's 27. He checks off a lot of boxes that signing him wouldn't just be we need a shortstop. There's a lot of other things this guy brings to the table that is some of it's tangible, some of it's intangible that I think would do mm-hmm. the Tigers very well. I know that Hinch would love it. I'm sure, whether you put a lot of stock into players wanting to reunite with their manager, I don't know. But to my knowledge, there was never any friction between Correa and Hinch, so I don't know why that would be an issue. So I'm not as skittish about talking really big money about a guy like this because that defensively, metric wise, I'm not exactly sure where he measures out, and of course that's very important. Clearly, I know it's not. People like to get. They get enamored with the numbers. But
I did bring up his numbers. Actually, he was a plus 2.9 WAR on Baseball Reference defensively. Okay. Actually, I was wrong. Offensively, he was 5.2. So overall, he was like a 7.2 WAR player. That's a guy who's worth $50 million a year if you work out the math in that one WAR is worth $7 million.
Yeah, no,
so that's what you mean again by being underpaid.
Yeah. I mean, he's not an on-base guy. He's not an on-base guy. Okay, he's not. But he can hit the ball out of the ballpark. He, like you said, he's 2.9 plus defensively WAR. I don't feel that feeling of nervousness about giving him. If that's where the Tigers choose to put all their financial eggs into that basket, I'm fine with that. You mentioned the other bats, obviously we'll get into Torkelson and Green in a moment, but Correa, to me, just checks off so many boxes that I don't know that the risk would be as great as you would think it would be. I think he's got a good 5 or 6 years, about 7, of being if he stays healthy, of being a very, very productive player. So if you sign this guy for 10 years, let's just say, I think you're going to get 6 or 7 at least productive seasons out of him, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I mean, I really am.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this fan base. They're terrified of long-term contracts, but the two that they always bring up were given to players far on the bad side of 30 in Cabrera and Victor Martinez. Right. And there was also the last the last giant signings that Avila made, specifically with when he went with Justin Upton and goddamn, I've already blanked the pitcher from my mind. You know what I'm talking about? Who got
Zimmerman?
Zimmerman, who got $25 million a year for 5 years and was god awful due to a combination of injuries and old age and just plain ineffectiveness. So Tigers fans are a little gun shy right now when it comes to that. No matter if it's Correa, if it's Story, if it's Seaman, if it's Baez, if they decide to go that direction, or there's a few other decent looking free agents out there, but all the big guns are at shortstop. You're going to have to pay up, and if you want to win, and we've talked about this before, that they need to find their next Pudge, need to find their next Ordonez. Guys they signed that helped ramp up to what that the Tigers became for a decade. You can't, and we've said this again and again and again, you can't all of a sudden just say, okay, now we're going to contend, we get everybody right now, and next thing we're going to contend. Rebuilds are not linear. The Tigers could very easily take a step back next year, even if they do make some nice signings, because the young players don't all progress at the same level, at the same speed. Like, obviously, you were obviously going to bring up Torkelson and Green. You got Dingler. There's a few other relatively high-level prospects. There really sounds like, specifically, Torkelson and Green specifically, the Tigers are already kind of penciling them into next year's lineup, if not to start the year, but at least by the All-Star break, if not earlier. And there's no guarantees that, obviously, I would even be probably willing to bet, the odds are they are not going to come out of the blocks hitting like all-stars or hitting like the players we expect them to be. They need to grow into that. I mean, we saw the struggles that Casey Mize had last year, for example, in its shortened year. And, Matt Manning and it's one of those things where I think the fan base needs to remember, yes, if they do spend big money and then things go sideways a little bit next year, it's not because they spend big money, because the odds are these players that they're going to give decent-sized contracts to are going to be productive ball players. The rebuild is ultimately going to depend on the young pitching arms, the young bats like Torkelson and Green, and we don't know how those guys are going to progress, which could stall out the rebuild for a year or two. These things take time. We're old enough to remember how long it took the 84 Tigers to finally coalesce. That rebuild kind of started to hit their stride like in 77, but it still took them till 84 to actually win it all. And the same with the last with the 2006 to 2014 era. there were peaks and valleys of that team, and that there was a few changes of the roster during that time frame. And like I said, these things aren't linear. They aren't going to go straight up and straight down. The baseball doesn't work that way. Sports doesn't work that way. So that's my fear, Greg, is that the Tigers are going to make some nice splash signings, or even just one giant signing like a Correa or somebody, and then if they don't win 90 games next year, the fan base is going to lose their minds. And they need to remember that's not how baseball works. You don't go from 50 wins to 60 wins to 80 wins to 100 wins. You go from from 65 to 72 to maybe 77, then you might have a 75 win year, and then you have a 95 win year. You just don't know how it's going to work out. And we just have to remember that that's just how baseball is. Funny. It's so different than the other major sports, where one or two players can change a team from a losing team into a winning playoff team overnight. Baseball doesn't work that way. But the Tigers they need to hit a couple free agent signings this year, and they need them to hit big.
Yeah, this is going to be really a fascinating season next year because of a lot of what you just said. The Tigers obviously have piqued a lot of interest, not just around Detroit, but around baseball with their 77 wins. I just saw a piece on The Athletic today. They were talking about teams to look for. Maybe Jason Stark. I think Jason Stark wrote it. Teams to look for in 2022, and they mentioned the Mariners in the American League. They mentioned the Mariners and the Tigers.
Yeah.
And Stark said in the article that the feeling about the Tigers is almost unanimous, that this is indeed a team that's to be contended with as soon as next year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the off-season moves are going to clearly play a role in that. But this notion that the Tigers are on the verge of something really good is not just from this rose-colored fan base in Detroit. It's nationally. Mm-hmm. They're looked at as a team. A lot of that, Al, is AJ Hinch. Let's face it. A lot of that is AJ Hinch. Let's be honest. Hinch is the guy that gives this team even more credibility. And the people around baseball see these front office moves the Tigers made that we've touched on tangentially recently, the front office moves they've made, the minor league changes they've made throughout the organization. That's not coincidence, the timing of these things. Yeah. That's because they know that this guy Hinch, this is what I wrote in my piece yesterday, AJ Hinch is not to be trifled with. This is a guy who's got an opt-out clause that he can walk away if he doesn't think things are going the way he thinks they should be going. And he has shown, after what he's done just in one season, his impact. Now, just we look at the 77 wins and the roster that he had. And you mentioned the injuries, especially to the pitching staff.
Yeah.
You look at 77 wins. Now, granted, they didn't play well within the division, which is it was a weird season
how they had I think a winning record against division winning teams,
right?
But they couldn't beat like the Indians or whatever. Pardon me, the Guardians. So that's going to take some getting used to. But exactly, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
just think what he can do once they start to really pump in more talent.
Yeah.
So they are clearly the Tigers recognizing what they've got in Hinch in terms of, there's not a lot of teams whose managers have that kind of sway throughout the entire organization. The entire organization. So that is largely, I think, why people around baseball are keeping the Tigers on their radar, because they know how good AJ Hinch is.
Yeah.
Now he may not be a finalist for manager of the year, because that typically goes to a manager whose team won a lot. I get it, but don't look at that as an indictment on the job that he did. If it doesn't get any MOY consideration, it has nothing to do with the job he did in Detroit. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's not just the Detroit fans who are looking at this as being a big season coming up. But you're right. To your point about it not being linear, and you don't go. It's not like a checkerboard. I understand that, but when you're talking about a guy like Hinch, you're talking about adding people. They really, I don't see why they shouldn't finish above 500. If they can clean up that record,
they should be at least sniffing a wild card next year.
Right. They should be in the mid 80s next year, I would think. Maybe touching 90 if things go right. They were 74 and 78. They were flirting with 80 wins this year, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So they kind of faded at the end, but that's okay.
Well, think of it this way: they won 77 games, and their shortstop for the majority of those games was Nico Goodrum.
Right.
Good Lord! And Zach Short was they played the second most games at shortstop. First base was essentially vast majority of the games were Jonathan Scope played out of position. So and outfield was really a mishmash of a couple of some talented guys figuring things out, one veteran, and a bunch of fourth outfielders. So it really feels like Hinch deserves. He won't win it, but he deserves at least a taste of a manager of the year votes anyway.
But here's another, a couple things too, Al, about the current roster. You look at a guy like Akil Baddoo. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is an example of a guy that you could make a case for and say, look, if AJ Hinch wasn't the manager, would this have happened?
Yeah.
Would he have done this under Ron Gardenhire? I'm not picking on Gardenhire. I'm just saying because he's the last manager the Tigers had.
Right.
Would Baddoo have done what he did?
Look at, I don't know, talent wise, you have the exact same situation with Baddoo and Victor Reyes, who was with the Tigers for an entire season as a Rule 5 pick of Gardenhire, and Reyes barely played.
Well,
and with Hinch said, Baddoo, we're throwing you out there right now, and you're going to play. And he lived up to the. He had a good year, not a great year, but he's going to get some Rookie of the Year votes. That's how decent he was.
2.1 WAR. This is a kid that I remember writing way back in April after he sprinted out of the gate. I said, well, let's wait and see.
That was something else, though.
Let's just kind of, let's see what happens. And if you had told me then, I wasn't even. I think I even was on this program telling you that I wasn't even sure if he was going to be on the team. By the end of the season, and not only was he team, but 2.1 WAR, 766 OPS.
And you look at his splits, he had one bad month.
Yeah.
August, he had a bad month. Otherwise,
he
was a productive major league ball player. Even when he had a down month, he was still a 750 OPS guy, which is solid.
And the other
especially for a guy who's never played like he has. That's amazing.
Right. And the other guy, Al, that to me was fascinating, and I don't know I still don't know what to expect from him next year, is Jeimer Candelario.
Yeah.
This is another guy who you kind of almost were writing off, like maybe it's just not going to happen. Maybe he's not as good as we thought he was. He's had numerous chances. It looked like a guy that just wasn't going to cut the mustard.
Right.
And they were talking about, should we play him at first base? What do we do with this guy? Is he going to be, what is he? Mm-hmm. And he ends up having a career year for him. And again, how much of that is Hinch? How much of that is the coaching staff?
Right.
I find it very coincidental that Baddoo did what he did and Candelario did what he did under this coaching staff.
Right.
In fact, I don't think it was coincidental. I think there was something directly. I don't know what it was. If it was just Hinch got him to believe in himself. If Cool Ball saw something in his swing that
you can make that argument about a few players. Robbie Grossman had his best major league career per year at age 31 under Hinch.
Right.
So
there's something to that. I just think there's too many players for that to be a coincidence. Yeah. But at the same time, those guys now that's fine. But now they've got to continue to do it. Because the Tigers are looking at Baddoo. He's essentially got a job locked up.
Yeah, he's already penciled into the outfield.
He's got a job. Yeah. Candelario's got a job.
Yep.
But now it's okay. Now what do they do next year?
Yeah.
Not so much Candelario. I think he'll be okay. Baddoo scares me a little bit only because the only reason I say that is because this is still a guy that did he just happen to put it all together and this is as good as he could do, or is this just the beginning of something really good? He's only 23.
Yeah.
If this is the beginning now of something really good, this kid's 23 years old, and the Tigers have talked about finding a diamond in the rough. I mean, he could be this could be an amazing story if he goes on to author a 10-year career where he's in the outfield for 10 years in Detroit. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, 23 years old is so young, which means he was 22 when the season started. That's amazing.
Yeah, even if he ends up at the strong side of a platoon, as the left-handed bat against right-handed pitching, because he was bad against left-handed pitching, but again, he's young. He didn't look overmatched even though he wasn't that successful against left-handed pitching. He didn't look like he was overmatched. He's just like he was figuring it out. So, hell, I was a left-handed bat and I never figured it out. So
the thing I liked about him, and this is the same thing I said a couple weeks ago, that I liked about the entire team. To me, Baddoo was almost a microcosm in and of himself of the entire team, in the sense that whenever you thought he might go off the rails, that some of that early pixie dust that he had was going to go away and he was going to settle back into a Rule 5 guy or a 4A player. Every time you thought he might do that, he came back and would hit a home run or to make a big play in the outfield or drive in a run with a double or something, and he'd get it back on the tracks.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about, Al. I think that there's something to this notion that a coaching staff can take a young guy like that, and even Candelario, who's not old, take a guy like that, guys like that, and keep them believing in themselves and not let them go off the deep end. There were times where Candelario would look completely lost the last couple of years. Just didn't look like he belonged in the big leagues at times. And every time that you thought that Baddoo might go that route, might go like in a 2-for-15 slump or something, he'd come right back and hit a home run in the 9th inning or make a big play in the outfield. And it's like, whoa, and that's what I like about this staff. They didn't let things go. They didn't have any really long losing streaks. They didn't go into like a, 3-17. I mean, they had a bad start. I get it. Yeah. But after that, they didn't have any long losing streaks. They didn't go into major funks. They came back and won big games on the road against teams that they really shouldn't be beating. Yeah. And to me, a guy like Baddoo was almost like a microcosm of the Tigers season. At the end of it, it wasn't great, but it was respectable. Yeah. And it was okay. And I think that this kid now believes in himself, knows he's a big leaguer. Yeah. And that's half the battle. He knows he's a big leaguer. He's going to go to spring training now, 8 feet tall. Yeah. And because he knows he's a big leaguer and he's got a job locked up. Now he's got to continue to produce. Right. But he's not going to go into spring training like, hoping and praying that he's going to make the team. He's got a job locked up essentially, and he knows he's a big leaguer now. And that once you get past that, and you put that baggage out of the way and say, okay, I'm a big leaguer now. The rest of the game just gets a whole lot easier. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's to put it, I guess to sum things up with Hinch and Fetter, essentially the 1-2 punch, the coach and pitching, the manager and pitching coach, is that this was one of my complaints with sometimes of Jim Leland, as good as he was, especially about running a clubhouse, is that sometimes I felt he didn't put players in the best position to succeed. Sometimes, like playing Don Kelly too much, for example. A guy like Don Kelly got way too many at bats. As much as people loved him, he got way too many at bats, for example, and he would get exposed. I think with Hinch and Fetter, they seem to have down the idea, I'm going to use my players in a way where it's laid out for them to succeed. I'm not going to immediately put them behind the 8 ball by putting them into a situation where they don't fit or I know they're likely going to struggle. I'm going to play them when I think they're going to have the best chance to succeed. And for the most part, that's how the season played out. And I think that's a huge strength of Hinch's, and that's something a lot of managers never seem to be able to figure out. Right. You mentioned Fetter, and this is a guy too. You talk about up and coming stars.
He was a big time signing.
Oh my goodness gracious! And that's the thing about Hinch. Yeah. Hinch zeroed in on this guy. This wasn't like, this is like our 3rd or 4th pick for pitching coach. Yeah. As soon as he got the job, he zeroed in on Fetter right away. Yep. Lasered in on him, and he saw what this guy did in Michigan, and just figured there was something there. And I tell you what, this Federer has done some of these pitchers that he the Tigers got really. That was another good hire. And Federer's only like 34 or 33.
Yeah, he's a young guy. Yeah, he's going to be a manager someday. Yeah.
Or he could just be a Leo Mazzoni type who just.
Oh yeah, the next Johnny Sane or something.
Yeah. But no, that's what I mean. I mean, the coaching staff in general, Al, is just it's just. I think it's the best staff the Tigers have had in a long time, and I'm not just saying that because they won 77 games. I'm just looking at what what they've done with the players. The players
this team should not have won 77 games.
No, absolutely not. And again, there were so many times where they could have gone completely off the rails,
right,
and ended up with 66, 67 wins, like we all thought they might.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. They went right to the very end, not doing that, and they beat the White Sox in the last day of the. I know it's it's the last day of the season, but they even at the end when they kind of stumbled a little bit, they came back and won a game the last day of the season. And I just think that there's something's been instilled now in this organization that has been missing for a long, long time, and that is every time we step on the field, we're going to win.
Yep.
And I know that sounds crazy for a team that won 77 games, but that's what they feel like now. I think they feel more angry that they lost 85 games than they feel happy that they won 77.
Yeah,
that's the mentality right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I just brought up their month-by-month numbers, and after April they were over 500 every month, but September, August was almost 500. They were 12 and 14. Otherwise, they were essentially a game or two over 500 for most of the rest of the summer after that god-awful April. So, and you're right, that was very noticeable watching this team that they're not all they had their fair share of late game comebacks. Not all of them came through, but they never really felt like they were out of a game.
Right.
They always seemed to hate to use. It's a cliche, but they played to the whistle, as they would say in football.
Yeah,
they never seemed to. There was with this team with very little power and a lot of guys. They're no stars, just a bunch of guys. And yet they played such competitive baseball for a long period of time, for essentially 6 months. Says volumes about what they have in Hinch and his staff, and I'm with you there. I think this might be this might be hyperbole at this point, but this is looking like it has the possibility of being the best staff we've seen in the Tigers in our lifetimes, for example.
Yeah.
Sparky Anderson was great. Great manager, but that team should have won more than it did. They should have won more than one world title.
Yeah.
Jim Lamb was great.
Yeah.
Never won a World Series. That team was more than good enough to win more than one. Yeah. They should have won a couple World Series, and they never won anything. So Hinch, he's got a World Series in his pocket, be it has an asterisk or whatever. But Hinch, I think, kind of gives us the best of both worlds as Tigers fans, that he's very analytically minded, but he also gets player buy-in.
Yeah.
And he runs as of right now, appears he's running a very good clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
For all this could end up being the hire that saved Avila. For all the great he was getting for years, he was able to get AJ Hinch, and all of a sudden, look what the Tigers are looking like now. Now they're saying, this team could be a playoff team next year, or at the very least 2 years from now. And I think when we look back on that, it's going to all, like, the start of that timeline begins with AJ Hinch.
Well,
that's essentially saved Avila.
That's a good point. I mean, the hire after Gardenhire was always going to be the most important one.
Yeah, because we knew Gardenhire wasn't the guy. He was not going to be the guy.
Right, and I think Ron himself knew that. If you gave him some truth serum, he would say, "Yeah, I'm not the guy." But that hire after him was always going to be the key one. Okay, anybody can hire somebody when you're crappy. I mean, Alan Trammell in 2003 and what have you. Okay, but that guy that you bring in when you're ready to start to be serious again, that's the guy. And yes, Hinch essentially fell into their laps because of the suspension. Right. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Mm-hmm. The White Sox passed on him. They gave the job to La Russa.
I was just going to bring that up. Exactly.
That's okay. Mm-hmm. Hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. Who knows, the Tigers, Detroit sports teams have been on the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
So that's okay. You're going to be a little lucky. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is, this is, saving Avila. Yeah, you might be right about that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's I don't really thought of it that way, but it could be true.
Yeah.
All I know is the Tigers, if they're smart, lock this guy up now and don't let him go anywhere.
Yeah.
Could manage here for 10 years easily.
Yeah.
And it'll be another Kevin Cash in Tampa Bob Melvin in Oakland.
Yeah, Melvin, Asosha, guys who were there for a very, very long time. Exactly.
And that's what, and those guys all started young. Yeah, in order to, of course, manage that long, you got to start young, of course.
Yeah.
But there's no nothing that tells me that Hinch can't be here for 10 years at least, and be in a couple of World Series at least. So the Tigers better realize that they need to get this guy where he can't go anywhere,
right?
Or doesn't even think about going anywhere, because they're onto something good here, and these fans have waited a long time, and they sense it. They sense it. They can smell it right now. They smell blood in the water, and right now you got to make that. This is so crucial now. We've said this for a long time, but this is really this off season, getting Hinch locked up, navigating this off season correctly, getting Torkelson and Green in a good place, Dingler, Cody Clemens, you name it, all those guys. This is it now. You can't mess around now, because these fans are they're not going to accept it at this point. They've sensed it. They've got a taste of it this season, and there's no turning back now. You've got to continue to go forward, and or else this is going to be ugly.
Yeah, exactly. It's we've always said this was always going to. The easy part is tearing things down. It's rebuilding it is always the hard part, and we've seen it of all four teams in this town at this point. But yeah, I'm with you on Hinch, and I think the other thing to factor into Hinch is that. He's been on bad teams in the Diamondbacks. He's been on great teams like the Astros.
Right.
I think he's at a position in his career now. He's in his mid 40s, and he's been around the block a few times and actually made some very major mistakes. Mm-hmm. I think he's at a point in his career now where he knows exactly what he's doing. He's made the mistakes. He's done the screw ups. He's seen the good and bad. I think that he's at a point in his career now. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and he's not going to make the mistakes he made in Arizona and Houston. And I think the Tigers got him at the exact right time.
Exactly, and the Tigers are these moves that they've made with the front office stuff and with the minor league stuff.
Right.
That tells me that they understand that when Hinch says this is what you got to do, then they do it. Yeah. Because he knows what he's talking about. He'll be the first to tell you, Hinch will, that he was not ready to be a manager when he was manager in Arizona. He'll be the first to tell you. I had no business being in a dugout. But he learned a lot in that scenario, which was not good. Mm-hmm. Took that to Houston, and that team was coming out of the dark ages and was able to navigate. Of course, they had a lot of talent. I get that.
Yeah.
But he's been to the mountaintop. I'm with you 100% there. The confidence, the I know what I'm doing factor. There's an aura about this guy.
Yeah.
He's got it together. There's a lot of managers in baseball that, they're still trying to find their way. Gabe Kapler won 107 games. I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah. But he's another guy who took a couple of jobs before he figured it all out. Right. And now in San Francisco, they're rocking. So yeah. Yeah, and who would have saw, remember Gabe Kapler as this, when he was the Tigers, looked like a damn model with the 12 pack of abs. And now he's like a manager of the year candidate, 20 years later. So baseball. But no, all of a sudden now I feel even more confident about the Tigers after we talked about AJ Hinch for 10 minutes. So, because it really feels like if there was any power vacuum with the Tigers front office, Hinch filled it. I think this team goes as Hinch goes, not so much Avila. Avila is going to see what AJ Hinch wants, and Avila is going to get what AJ Hinch needs. So, Right. All right. With that, before we'll talk about the Red Wings because God, we'll especially now that baseball season is over and then we got training camp going on with the other two sports. We're going to be talking way too much Lions over the next couple months. So let's talk a little Red Wings after Greg gives us the question 2 of the birthday game.
Okay, born in this state in 1965. He was born in Montreal. Keep that in mind. So he's French-Canadian. One of the best players of all time. Turned out to be an executive for the team that he played for. And was able to come back from serious illness in the middle of his playing career.
Montreal, born in 65. But serious illness is the only hint you're giving me for the second hint, huh?
Well, no, he was a Hall of Fame. I already said that. He became a top executive of the team he played for. And I can tell you the team that he played for was east of the Mississippi. I'll give you that much as well.
All right.
So not Wayne Gretzky, in other words.
Yeah. Oh, God. There's a couple names that come to mind, but I'm
French-Canadian. French-Canadian.
Yeah, French-Canadian. Oh, God. I'm seeing some faces and maybe some first names, but I'm having trouble. Maybe it's because I'm doing this podcast about a beer this time that's playing into it.
First round overall pick in 1984.
84. No, it's. Oh, jeez. I honestly don't know. I'm drawing a blank on this one.
That's okay. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's maybe in the middle of the Wings discussion I'll just blurt it out. You never know these things, but
yeah, that's true.
We'll go with the gimme, which I'll probably miss after we finish talking about the Wings. It main reason that the Wings are kind of a topic. Is bad for a couple of reasons. One is I think the less bad. I'll put it this way. At least when it comes in a societal, moral type thing, is that Jakub Vrana requires shoulder surgery. He's going to miss 4 months. Vrana was his 25-year-old winger. He was essentially the centerpiece in return in the Anthony Mantha deal. And he was going to be plugged right into one of the top 2 lines. And he was going to be considered one of Detroit's best scorers. He's a big-time finisher. Mm-hmm. He's had a reputation that he didn't show up in the playoffs, but he's still young, and the main thing is he has always been a solid regular season player, and he was going to be depended on to score with this team, and now he's going to miss a good chunk of the season due to an injury suffered in training camp. Yeah. And that is something, these things happen, but he had just signed a 3-year bridge deal of worth about $5.25 million a season for the next 3 years. So this means Bobby Ryan, who signed a tryout contract, looks like he's going to make the team now because of this. And I guess on the bright side of this could create an opening for Lucas Raymond, who was the 4th overall pick last season, and has actually looked pretty darn entertaining. He's been entertaining to watch in the preseason so far. That might be the silver lining to this is if we see more Lucas Raymond out of this. I mean, it's as bad for the Wings that Varna's hurt. This is a team that struggles to score as it is, and losing Vrana, that's killer for their offense. But if it gives them a chance to play Lucas Raymond more, then maybe this might be the bright side of that. But in a season where they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway, barring a miracle, this isn't a season killer per se, but it's still dampens my interest in the Wings because I'd like to see goals scored occasionally, and Vrana helps with that. Now they're not going to score goals. That's been the one issue I've had with this team over the past few years is that they suck on offense.
Well, they scored a lot of goals for what it's worth. They've scored a lot of goals so far in the preseason.
In the preseason, yeah.
Whatever kind of cash you put into that. You mentioned Ryan. This is a guy that just has not been with the Red Wings for very long, but just has fallen in love with being a Red Wing. Now, I'm not sure if that's because he had some issues off the ice, and the Red Wings believed in him or whatever. And I don't know what.
He seems like a good clubhouse guy.
He loves the Red Wings. He just wants to play for the Red Wings, and so that.
I have no problem with that.
No, I mean that's fine. And
he's not going to make a ton of money, and and he's just a good fit, I guess.
He wanted to come to Detroit, back to Detroit
on a tryout contract. Value. That says volumes.
He may have, not that he had a great year last year, but he may have been able to get something other than that with some other organization. But
right.
Said,
we're going to got more guaranteed playing time, whatever.
I want to be in Detroit, and this was before the Vrana thing and before all that other stuff happened, where he knew that there's a very good chance that he would not make the team. But he's actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
He's still only 33, which is an ancient. Wants to be here, has an opportunity now, clearly with the Vrana injury, to make the team. And to not just make the team, but maybe being one of the top 6 forwards potentially.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's he's scored goals. I mean, he knows. Yeah. I mean, this is, unless he's completely lost the touch, which it's possible, but he's scored a lot of goals in the NHL. Yeah. So I mean, this, and it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like he's not 40. He's 33.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this might be. I mean, I don't like the Vrana injury. It stinks. But if it means a guy like Ryan can come in and maybe, hold the fort down a little bit while Vrana gets healthy again. This was not going to. I think you mentioned a couple of minutes ago. This was not going to be the playoff year anyway. This was not. This doesn't kill their Stanley Cup chances.
Right.
It's not good for Vrana. He's young and everything. You hate to see it. He played really well. He scored like 8 goals in 11 games last year for the Red Wings.
Yeah.
But he'll be back. He'll come back. He's a young guy. He'll be okay.
It's not like it's a knee or something like that.
He'll come back.
He'll play the last third of the season or something like that.
It'll be okay. And this isn't going to be the year anyway that they make noise. Maybe next year, 22-23, they might make some noise. This year is just kind of an extent. You want to get better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not completely saying blow off the season, but this wasn't going to be. This isn't a devastating injury, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I just don't think it is. It stinks, granted. But, he'll be okay.
Yep.
So it's, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Guys just get hurt. I mean, that's what happened last year with Bertuzzi.
Yeah. And that's kind of a segue for us. And that we found out over the past couple weeks that Tyler Bertuzzi is an idiot anti-vaxxer. I think it said volumes when Steve Yzerman was talking to the media, and he announced that the entire team and staff were vaccinated except for Bertuzzi, which he spit out by name. He was the only guy. And Yzerman made a point to add, he said, I'm vaccinated, my family is vaccinated, and I will leave it at that. And if you want to know more, talk to Bertuzzi. Let him answer your questions. And to essentially be so misguided to the point where you're willing to forfeit more than $450,000, because that's what he will lose in salary by not being able to travel to Canada. I believe it's 9 games he can't play. It could be more if they did make a playoffs or something like that. And to do that, and it's just, I have no idea what in the hell he is thinking at this point. Where you're willing to forfeit $500,000 over something that has been proven over and over and over again to be safe for 99.9% of the population. We're both vaccinated. Most of our families are vaccinated. This country, this state is like 65-70% vaccinated. Yet there's the people like Bertuzzi are going to continue to let this pandemic just linger on, allow to kill thousands and thousands and thousands of more people. As soon as I heard this, I was thinking, I know it's going to be hard to do because this really limits how you can use them on other teams. I go, just trade them. It's not worth it to have a guy like this on your team. One lone man, an island of a pandemic island. This guy is a breakout waiting to happen. And I would like this, and they just gave him a 2-year contract, for Christ's sake, a decent one. Yet, they're kind of stuck with him because of this stance. There were reports that Yzerman, even if he's not actively shopping Bertuzzi, it was reported by Bob Duff, who was a legit NHL reporter. His exact words were, he's gauging what interest there might be, was the quote, in other teams may have in Ty Bertuzzi. So you have to believe Yzerman's no idiot. He's a very smart man. And even in what they say in sports, the best ability is availability. And when you kneecap your own availability over this and be willing to sacrifice so much money in the process, a guy like Yzerman's got to think, what kind of an idiot did I just give that kind of money to? Because it hurts the team, it hurts the fan base, it hurts society to have a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi under contract.
Well, one thing that this pandemic has done is it's shown people to be who they really are, and in some cases it's torn families apart. It's been a slap in the face in a lot of instances of sides of people you didn't realize were there. And I know it's been tough on everybody, but these kinds of willful ignorance. And I say that in reference to your rhetorical question about Yzerman saying, "What kind of an idiot did I sign?" Well, he didn't know that when he when he gave him that deal, and and I don't know that it's as easy as to say trade him. Because
you can't at this point, because it takes two parties to do it, so, and the other team's gonna have the same issue.
I mean, it's like when Bob Probert couldn't go to Canada. Remember that whole thing? Because if he went back, he went to Canada, he couldn't come back, so he couldn't play any games in Canada. Yeah. So I don't know what to say. I mean, this is not a role player. This is not a guy you could just send to the AHL. This is one of your expected to be one of your top line players. Here's what I don't like, and this is where organizations drive me nuts. Yeah. And even Yzerman said this. He said, and his teammates said the same thing. Now, this is what they're telling the media, of course, but we have to. It's the only thing we have to go on. He said, "Well, it's his choice. We respect it, and he's doing what he has to do." And no, baloney. I wish somebody would have the guts, somebody like a Dylan Larkin or somebody who's got some clout on that team, or not even Yzerman, but a player on the team that would say, "No, time out. This is ridiculous." And I know there's this code in the locker room where you don't do that kind of stuff. You don't publicly attack a teammate. I understand that, but I don't like this notion of this is just a difference of opinion. Yeah. Well, he does this because it's his choice, and I don't get the whole anti-vax thing to begin with, and we could do a 2-hour podcast just on that.
Oh yeah.
But I don't understand this coddling of these people. Well, it's no big deal. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. You're in a locker room with teammates, and you're taking showers, and you're in close quarters, and I don't care if people are wearing masks or not. You're out there, in practice, checking each other, and everybody's breathing on each other, and this clown's not vaccinated. I don't. He's putting the health of the team. It's not just him. It's not just him. But he's putting the health of the whole team at risk. And I don't know how the Red Wings could be so diplomatic about this. Yeah. I really don't.
I wouldn't be tempted to just make like the Columbus Blue Jackets with Zach Rinaldo. They just said sit home. You're not going to be on our team, and we're not sending you to the AHL because you're not vaccinated. But they can. It's easy to do with a guy like him because he was on a 2-way contract. With Bertuzzi, it's a whole different animal because he's a good player. He's ever seen this in the NFL that if you're good, you can kind of get away with being unvaccinated because the teams are they want your talent. They're willing to put up with this. Because you're like Kirk Cousins, for example, in Minnesota. But the issue is Kirk Cousins doesn't have to cross the border. He's going to be able, barring he doesn't get sick, he's going to be able to play all the Vikings games. Bertuzzi can't, or any other, unvaccinated NHL player can't. And you would hope, Andrew Wiggins was a big topic this week, the NBA player, who bitched and moaned about the vaccine and he didn't want to get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And he got vaccinated this week because of the money, essentially. Mm-hmm. He's still bitching about it. The quote was, he felt forced to get the COVID-19 vaccine because if he wanted to play in San Francisco, you had to be vaccinated. And he's saying, I felt forced. Well, good. I'm glad you felt forced.
Right.
Good. We need to force more people to get fucking vaccinated. I'm glad you got forced to get vaccinated. And you make a good point. I wish the Wings would put. It wouldn't bother me if the Red Wings brass just put their foot down and said, "You want to play hockey? Get vaccinated. You don't want to get hockey? Go home."
Yeah, I just don't. I don't like this notion of just treating it like there's just two differences of opinion here. Well, I mean,
we've been dealing with this for 2 years.
It's more.
It's exhausting.
I know it puts the Red Wings in a tough spot, but
it's not like you said. It's not like they're Stanley Cup contenders.
Right.
Bertuzzi's not that kind of a difference maker.
Well, you know what though, Al? Even if they were Stanley Cup contenders, and I would still be saying the same thing. That I wish they would stop with this kumbaya thing and the diplomacy and it's okay, it's his choice, I respect it. No.
Yeah.
What's to respect? What is there to respect about not wanting to take a shot that has been proven to be effective, that is safe, that is free, that keeps other people safe? How do you respect
and this is the other thing. Bertuzzi is just coming off major back surgery. So he's willing to listen to the doctors about his spine being cut open. But he's not willing to listen to the doctors about a vaccine? It makes absolutely no sense.
Where is he getting his information from?
Oh, God.
These professional athletes, Al.
I saw a rumor that he's got QAnon types in his family.
Oh, God.
Yeah, enough. Exactly. Enough said.
If you have, you're a professional athlete, you've got access to the best doctors, the best trainers, the best everything, equipment, you name it. Where is he getting his information from? Who's telling him that as a professional athlete whose body is his living? Let's face it. And he's only got a finite amount of time to make money with that body. Who's telling him? Who's advising him to say, don't listen to all that other stuff, and don't get vaccinated?
Yeah, don't listen to all your team doctors. Don't listen to the experts. Listen to Alex Jones instead. Yeah,
who's he listening to? Who's giving him this information? That's
I think the best comment I saw about this is, it's not like the Bertuzzi family is known for the best judgment. We're thinking back to his uncle nearly killing a player on the ice.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating, and I'm with you. If I were the Red Wings, I'd be more. It would not bother me in the least if they said, "Sit home till you're fully vaccinated. Then you're welcome in the locker room." And that's the I'm sure what's playing into that is the CBA and the unions and things like that.
He's not an at-will.
And that's another difference with him is that he's got a powerful union backing him and backing him up. Where Joe Blow, your job can force you, and it's been proven time and time again in the courts that if you want to work for a certain organization, they say you need to be vaccinated. You need to be vaccinated, you got to find another job.
These player unions are scared to death, and to a degree.
The player unions should be doing all the forcing as well.
Well,
they really should.
The player unions are, and I can understand this to a point, but only to a point. They are scared to death to give an inch to about anything.
Yeah, right.
And no matter how theoretically logical it seems, they're scared to death to give an inch because they're afraid that
they'll never get it back.
The man is going to take a mile. Right, they'll never get it back.
Yeah.
Not only will they not get it back, but they'll lose ground. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, apparently there hasn't been any sort of coming together of the owners and the players, and when I mean that, I mean but the union and the owners, to say, okay, look, let's lay it all on the table here. If you do this vaccination thing, if I'm the owners, I'm saying to the players, if you do this vaccination thing, meaning that you are going to put pressure and make it a condition of employment, which obviously it's not, and there's anywhere in the CBA. There's no provision in the CBA for this. I understand that.
Right.
But if they were to get together in a room and say, hey, if you do this, let's do this together. I shouldn't even say if you do this. Let's together say that a condition of employment in the National Hockey League or whatever league we're talking about is that you must be vaccinated. End of story.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's not that easy, but if I don't know that they've had that discussion, I don't know that they've said, let's get together here. They've had all year to talk about this. They've had throughout. I mean, COVID didn't start last week. This has been going on forever. The unions, if the unions are afraid of giving an inch about this because they're afraid they're gonna lose ground down the line, why can't the owners say, look, don't sweat it? Now there may be a trust factor. I understand that, but can't they do an addendum or can't they do something that says we're joining forces? Both sides agree that a condition of employment and in the National Hockey League is to be vaccinated. End of story. Period. And if you're not, you don't play. And not only do you not play, you don't get paid. Now, I get it. Can of worms. I understand. But I don't know that there's even been any sort of discussion. If there's a lack of trust, then where's that coming from?
Yeah.
Well, if there's a lack of trust, then why can't you talk about it? Why can't the players' union talk to the owners and say, we're concerned here. We want to work with you guys. But we're concerned that if we do this, that it's going to come back and haunt us later. I mean, I don't. It's too bad that there can't be, that collegial approach to this, so that you don't. So the type of guy like Tyler Bertuzzi doesn't want to get the shot, he doesn't play. Yeah. Period.
Yeah, and just to kind of go to the 180 of the Bertuzzi situation is Defector ran a blind item over this past week about a major league player who paid teammates to get vaccinated. And Craig Calcaterra's newsletter, Cup of Coffee, also talked about it. And from what the reporter found out and no one would confirm it. But from everything they found out and how everything went down and where it took place, they were like 99.9% sure it's Adam Wainwright of the Cardinals who was paying teammates to get vaccinated. We need more Adam Wainwrights in the world and less Tyler Bertuzzis. And obviously Wainwright could afford it. He just signed another contract. But it says volumes. A guy like Wainwright wanted his team to be 100% vaccinated, and he went above and beyond. He took the union and the team right out of it and said, I'll just pay out of my pocket to get vaccinated. And that's what happened. And he got the Cardinals 100% vaccinated. I wish the Wings had some sort of option like that, but when you're a lone island a lone unvaccinated island in a sea of vaccinated islands, I have a feeling, as we're seeing it, we see this every day in real life, so to speak, that these people are so stubborn, you cannot change their minds.
Right.
You can debunk everything they believe, and they will just dig their heels in harder. The only thing that's going to get the Wings to 100%, Bertuzzi's got to get sick. He's got to get COVID. Pure and simple. I hate to put it that way.
Yeah.
But the only way they're going to get 100% is if Bertuzzi catches COVID and then gets the antibodies that way.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous that this is a discussion 2 years into a pandemic that we have idiots like this still out there. Anyway, before we get to one more idiotic topic in the Lions, give me question 3 of the birthday game where I can really show I'm an idiot as well.
Okay, born in 1965, first overall pick in the 1984 draft by the Pittsburgh Penguins, I will tell you that. And that's the only team we ever played for.
Oh, God. I know exactly who it is, and I can't think of his goddamn name.
Really?
Yes. Mario Lemieux.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was finally the gimme. Yeah. I'm an idiot, but not that big of an idiot. But I almost forgot Mario Lemieux's name. All right, this podcast is running long, so let's get right to the Lions.
Okay.
4 games in, and it's time to start talking about the draft. They dropped 0-4 since we've last talked. There was that gut punch of a 1917 loss to the Ravens on a 66-yard NFL record field goal by Justin Fields. And obviously then the Bears loss had the same old Lions vibe to it because they lost to the Bears 24-14. And the Lions had 5 possessions inside the 10 and ended up with 7 points. That is so same old Lions. It's amazing how same old Lions that is. But I did watch the Bears game. I wasn't able to watch the Baltimore game because I was up north. I don't go up north to sit inside and watch football. Mm-hmm. I actually sat outside and listened to football with a beer and a cigar because the weather was beautiful up there. It was mid-60s and sunny. It was a gorgeous fall day up there. It was much better than the Lions game, to say the very least. And I would just say this: I'm sitting there at the patio table and I'm drinking a beer and I'm listening to the game on the radio. Mm-hmm. And when Fields hit the field goal, I burst out laughing. That was all I could do. I just started laughing, literally uncontrollable laughing. Linda was in the cabin. She was doing some stuff in there. She said she could hear me all the way from inside outside because, she knew what had happened because I was listening over the internet. So I was like about a minute behind, and she had actually had the game on inside while she was, doing some stuff around the house. And she knew exactly what it was, when I started just laughing like a lunatic when that kick went down. But I mean, what else can you do, Greg? After the fact, when I posted on Facebook, I was 9 years old when the Lions lost by the same exact score to the Saints in 1970 on Tom Dempsey's then league record 63-yard field goal. Right. 51 years later, the same goddamn thing happens. And I said, when I was 9, I cried. And that was literally one of the first games I remember watching. 50 years later, as I'm pushing retirement age, I just laughed. Because what else can you do at that point? And then you got the Bears game with this, Dan Campbell being aggressive to a fault. I don't mind the aggressiveness. I don't really, because it's not like the Lions are a playoff team or anything this year anyway. They're a bad team. They're going to be lucky to win 3 games. I think your prediction is going to be closer to my 5. But seeing fans lose their minds over this is like, this is what you wanted Jim Campbell to be. Not Jim Campbell. This is what you wanted Jim Caldwell to be. You wanted him to be aggressive. You wanted him to go 4th down. And analytics says, vast majority of the time, going forward on 4th down is the right thing to do. But the Lions being the Lions, they either turned the ball over or Goff. They had a couple plays that were there and Goff just didn't hit them. So like the one that ended any chances of winning, the one in the 4th quarter where the receiver was there, Goff just plain missed them. So talk about 2 same old Lions kind of games: losing a game on an NFL record field goal, and then losing the game when you get into the red zone 5 times and you can't put it in the goddamn end zone. That's the Lions in a damn nutshell. And to Campbell's credit, he's saying all the right things, and and he did admit today that maybe he needs to ease back on the aggressiveness because, in his words, we may not be good enough. That's pretty obvious at this point. But, those 2 games, Greg, were like, holy crap! That was like 50 years in a nutshell right there. But those 2 games. That's you're absolutely right. I didn't laugh when Tucker hit that field goal, but I didn't
It didn't surprise me.
I could see you'd snort and have another drink of your scotch.
When he first kicked it, when he first kicked it, I it's hard to tell from the end zone camera because you don't really. I thought it looked to me like it was going to be short. I said, it was accurate for sure. It was dead on accurate. But I said, well, I think it's probably going to land a little short, maybe like halfway into the end zone or something.
Yeah.
And then it kept going, and then it hit the crossbar, and I thought, well. It seemed like the time that it was in the air and the crossbar, after it hit the crossbar, was forever. And then I could see the impression of it hitting the screen.
That is the other thing. How often do you see a ball hit the crossbar and then bounce hard enough to hit the damn screen? But it usually hits the crossbar and bounces back.
It didn't surprise me in the least. No. I wrote a column about it.
He's like Tucker's the best kicker in football.
Yeah, I wrote a column about it last week about how Campbell talks tough and everything, and he turned into a little marshmallow at the end with his conservative play calling and taking a timeout on defense and not rushing 4 guys, and the whole thing just
the aggressiveness is very inconsistent.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to hear about the delay of game penalty that wasn't called beforehand.
We do need to touch on that a little bit.
Well, but I mean, stop 4th and 19, and it's not an issue. I mean,
that's exactly what I would say, because there's this segment of Lions fandom that says, we never get the calls.
Detroit
the NFL's against us. There's a conspiracy against the rest against us.
Right.
And they go, you know why these calls continually cost the Lions? Because they're always in a position where these calls could cost the Lions.
That's right.
If you get a bad call and you're up 10 points, it's not nearly as bad as when you get a bad call and you're down by 3 and you're struggling to keep yourself alive. And that's been the issue with this, is that, and you nailed it. That was my thought as well. For all the people bitching about the missed call, and it was a legit missed call, we've seen it over and over again. 4th and 19. That's what it comes down to. Is 4th and 19. You get how often does someone convert on 4th and 19? It's got to be a minuscule amount. And let's not even forget about that game that the Ravens dropped 3 touchdown passes in the first half.
Yeah, right.
It shouldn't even been a game at that point.
The same guy.
Yes, the same guy dropped 3 touchdown passes.
They had the Ravens on their heels. They sacked Jackson a couple times, or nearly sacked him. They had the crowd going bananas. They had the 4th down coming up, and what do? They call timeout and stop momentum.
Yeah. And Jackson said, "Thank God they called timeout," because he even said we were scrambling.
Of course they were. Yeah. It gave us a chance to kind of reset, catch our breath. Greg Roman, dialed up a play that he thought was going to work. And then Jackson didn't even stop there. He said, I'm surprised they rushed 3.
Yep.
It's like all this was making the Lions coaching decisions. And I know he wasn't trying to do that. I know he wasn't trying to make the Lions look bad. But everything he said did make the Lions look bad. Well, they should have called. I'm glad they called timeout. I'm glad they rushed 3. And so that's where's this aggressive? Where's this bite your kneecap stuff? They had the Ravens completely discombobulated.
Yep.
And all they had to do is hold them for one more play. And what do? They call timeout and let everybody reset.
Yeah, they call timeout and then go in and prevent.
I don't. So I don't know what this whole we're going to bite your kneecaps thing. To me, it's a bunch of baloney. Now the Bears game. Why? I know I hear what you're saying about the metrics say you go for it on 4th down.
Right.
But why you don't? The metrics also say that if you're down that close and you've got essentially a chip shot for a field goal, you're down. You're
talking about to make it a 1-score game.
You're right. Yeah. You're down by 10 and you've got a chip shot. I don't care who the kicker is.
Yeah.
To get the game within 7, you still got a couple minutes left on the clock.
Yeah.
Then what you do, Al, you kind of put the pressure on the Bears a little bit. Bears,
it's not like the Bears are offensive juggernauts.
Exactly. They weren't exactly right. And they're right. And they're feeling a little bit, oh boy, we got to get a couple first downs here if we're going to win this football game. Because not that Jared Goff's the second coming of Joe Montana, but still, you get an NFL quarterback sometime, he can lead the team down to a touchdown. The Lions, frankly, all day were moving the football between the 20s. It's when they got inside the 20, they have the problem. So why you would take that option away from your own team by flexing your bravado and going for 4th and 1, and the Lions look discombobulated. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
The Ravens were discombobulated at the end of the Lions called timeout, gave them a chance to regroup. The Lions on that 4th down looked like they were confused. Like
they weren't sure what down it was.
The whole thing
they weren't sure what was going on.
It looked rushed. It looked like it didn't look well planned out to me at all. So it wasn't even like they had something in their hip pocket that just didn't work out. It looked like they just went up to the line of scrimmage and freelanced something. Yeah. So now they don't have any chance of winning the football game whatsoever because now they're down, still down by 2 scores. But, I know, I don't know, Al, I look at this team and I know they've been hit by injuries and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be dramatic. I don't think they're going to win a football game. I honestly don't think they're going to win a game this year. I don't know I don't know how you thought they were going to win 5 or 6 games. That roster is so thin. Now, granted, I didn't know how thin they were until they started playing the games. I will admit that. Yeah. But I don't know where you got this notion they could win 5 or 6 games because they are just absolutely. I don't know if they can beat the Jaguars. They don't play the Jaguars this year, but I don't think they can even beat them. They are so thin and they've been injury ravaged. They might be able to beat the Bears at home when the Bears come to town, maybe. Other than that, I don't see them winning a football game.
Yeah, it's I think in the NFL for the most part you can stumble into a win or two. I don't think they're going to go 0-17. But I think I remember the last podcast I said they'll win 5. You're running a mill bad team wins 5 games. And you said no, they're going to win 3 if that. And I think you're looking right here because this is not a deep team and Jared Goff really looks like a complete run-of-the-mill journeyman quarterback. Say what you will about Stafford. Stafford's a better quarterback.
Of course.
If answer buts about
Of course.
And Goff is really, you can win with Goff, but you need
a lot more.
The Rams around him, essentially.
Right. Exactly.
You're not going to win with Goff, with the Lions. At least not the way they are currently.
Well, I think the thing about Goff, Al, is that he's not going to be here for. He's a placeholder. He's a guy. Placeholder, right? Yeah. He's a placeholder. I don't know whether the Lions have 5 first-round picks over the next 3 drafts. Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, I'm sure they'll pick a quarterback. I mean, they have to. So there's going to be the guy that's the quarterback of the future is not on the roster right now. Goff is. I don't know where he's going to play after Detroit, but he's gone after this. I think he's got 2 years on the contract, right? 2.
Yeah.
Well,
they restructured it to where they probably have to keep him a second year.
Right.
He's got more than 2, but it's after 2 years you could eat it and gain a lot of cap room and not have that much dead money.
Right. Which is what they'll do.
Because it would have been after this year, but they restructured it because they wanted some cap room for this year.
It's okay. It's okay to have him for 2 years. I mean, he's had some.
It's not like this team was going to be a winner.
He's had some flashes where he's okay, but he's obviously a big step. I didn't realize how much of a step down he was from Stafford, but he's a step down from Stafford. Granted, no question about that. But so he's okay for what he's not going to be the guy that's going to be the quarterback of the next playoff team. I don't think that guy's somewhere in college right now. I don't know where he's at, but he's not.
It might not even be a senior this year. Right. I have a feeling it might be the next draft after that.
Right. What gives me pause, of course, is that do you really trust the Lions to draft and develop a franchise quarterback? Now you could say that they did that with Stafford, yes, but did they really? Because they didn't win anything with him. Right. So and it's not necessarily that it was his fault. So it's not so much that I don't trust them to get a quarterback that can play. Although that's a big if. Can they build around the guy? That's what scares me. It's not so much drafting a top flight quarterback. Anybody can do that. But do they have the wherewithal? And Brad Holmes, God bless him. He's okay. You got to give him longer what you've given him so far. But do we really believe the Brad Holmes Dan Campbell combo is going to draft a franchise quarterback and build all the pieces around him that need to. That's a big if. That's a big ask. Yeah. And I so it's not so much that I'm scared about the quarterback, who they're going to pick. Although that could go sideways too. I'm more worried about what they're going to build, how they're going to build around, because they had Stafford for a million years and nothing ever happened. Okay. Right. They had Barry Sanders for a million years and nothing happened. They had, you name it, for a million years and it never happened. So, I wonder if they have that. We don't know. I mean, we
just don't know.
But it's too early to tell. And the whole thing of giving Campbell 6 years is just. I know it's only 4 games into it, and I understand that, but I don't get the 6-year thing. I really don't. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and just to throw that out there, we talked about Stafford, and it was funny. He was leading the MVP talk, after 3 games, and then the Rams this Sunday got to see the Stafford that we saw in big games. Undefeated Rams come up against the undefeated Cardinals. Stafford gets badly outplayed by Kyler Murray. Badly outplayed by Kyler Murray. And that's Matthew Stafford in a nutshell. Who knows if we saw enough of Stafford in Detroit. Where they say he never played big games. Bullshit, he played in big games. He just came up small in big games. So I think that might have saw maybe some Rams fans can take off their blue and yellow glasses and say, oh, that's what Lions fans are talking about. Because there seems to have been this retconning of Matthew Stafford since he's gone to the Rams. He was just this underrated gem in Detroit who was just used the wrong way. Yeah. No, he had some great games, but goddamn, he had some shitty games, and there was times where he just plain came up small. Yeah. And that is Matthew Stafford, and that is not going to change in L.A., even though he's surrounded with a lot more talent. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. Yeah. All right, one more thing. Well, actually, we should start wrapping it up. We've ranted about the Lions enough because we're going to do plenty of Lions ranting over the next few months, considering we're not even going to have any regular season hockey or basketball for a little bit yet. So I'm going to make an executive decision and say, who's your turkey of the week?
Well, I'm going to go with this is low-hanging fruit, kind of, but I'm going to go with the Jacksonville. I'm not even going to go with Urban Meyer. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars for hiring Urban Meyer.
Oh, God, that whole situation.
I know the ownership is horribly embarrassed by what happened on Friday.
That statement, that Shad Khan.
Holy shit! He didn't pull any punches, and he did not. He did not mince any words. And he felt betrayed by Urban Meyer. But I got to tell you, that's what happens when you bring these big time college guys in, and I'm not saying that it was destined to be a bad hire. I'm just saying that there's something there was something off about this from the get-go to me, about this whole Meyer to Jacksonville thing. The whole thing was to me just didn't look like it was the recipe for success. He was coming into a team that was awful, god awful. He had very little talent. Yes, he has a brand new quarterback and everything. But I didn't see that this was going to be some fait accompli where it was just destined to work out and he was going to be Barry Switzer with the Cowboys and, John Robinson with the Rams and Pete Carroll with the Seahawks. I didn't get that feeling with Meyer. Now, I didn't predict this off the field baloney, but from what I'm reading, he's completely lost the locker room. This is going back. This is almost that Bobby Petrino stuff or whatever that guy's name is. He with Atlanta. He's completely, from what I'm seeing, completely lost the locker room. The players do not respect him one iota. They said he didn't even have the locker room to begin with when he came into the training camp. They looked at him side-eyed. So this is a joke right now. And they're even talking about, I know Stephen A. and those folks are talking about, should they move on from him? I don't know if you do that necessarily, but you might. I mean, maybe. I mean, the team is god awful. He's along with the Lions, the two worst teams in the NFL by far. And this is, for as bad as the Lions are, at least it's not like this. So I I know that it's easy for me to now say that was a bad hire, but from the get-go, I didn't feel warm and fuzzy about it to begin with. So my jerk of the week is the Jaguars for putting themselves in this position. Yes, it was Meyer, for sure. He's got his actions, for sure. But they created this monster now. You know, the old saying about if a dog pees in the grocery store, you don't blame the dog. You blame the person who bought the dog in the grocery store. So that's my jerk of the week is the Jaguars.
Yeah, this is going to end badly. It really, really is. I saw those same reports about the locker room was laughing at him after the fact. And what was the other comment? I think it was Michael Silver who put out there that that he didn't bring it up in a full team meeting. He did it position by position.
Well, they said he canceled the meeting. He canceled the meeting.
Yeah, he canceled the meeting, and the players thought, oh, he's scared.
Right.
You know, and this is Steve Spurrier, Bobby Petrino, Lou Holtz all over again. It really is.
Right.
To bring up three others who just we could throw Nick Saban in there as well. Successful college coaches who absolutely bombed in the professional ranks. You know, you're right, because the John Robinsons and the Dick Vermeils and those guys. They're the outliers. They're the exceptions. The vast majority, I think you're right, the vast majority of guys promoted out of the college ranks, and most of them don't even have the track record that Urban Meyer has as a college coach. Fail miserably. And it's become obvious. Urban Meyer is in over his head. Or for that matter, I think it is something, it's obvious he doesn't want to work, or at least put in the hours that your typical head coach does in the NFL. Those guys are maniacs in the NFL, where, you know, they sleep at the office. What was the talk that, you know, John Gruden slept at the office and would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning kind of shit. You know, and here we are, Meyer, you know, he's out at the bar, you know, grinding away with a woman. Holy crap. It's, you know, I guess it was worth a shot, you know, because the Jags are such a bad team anyway. But, you know, now they essentially have wasted the first year of their rookie number 1 draft pick quarterback, for example. So, well, we'll see what happens, but yeah, that's a good call of Urban Meyer. I'm going to stick with football, because there's so many ways you could go with a jerk of the week. You know, with Urban Meyer, with the Ben Simmons situation out in Philadelphia. Sage Steele being an ass at ESPN. You know, making a comment about Barack Obama not really being black. You know, but I'm going to stick local, and I'm going to go with all those, especially there was a portion of the Lions fan base and some of the media who were wringing their hands and clutching their pearls over Sheila Ford Hamp being booed out of the goddamn Ford Field during the ceremony to honor Calvin Johnson. And I guess because they had Johnson at halftime of the Ravens game, and they had a little ceremony and Johnson spoke, and then when Sheila Ford Hamp came up to speak, apparently you couldn't even hear her. The boos were so loud and vicious. And here's the thing. There's people say, oh, they shouldn't have done that. She's only been in charge for like a year and a half. Bullshit. She's been in a position of power with that team since Martha took over. You know, it was known that, you know, Martha was 90 years old. It was Sheila Ford Hamp pulling the strings with Martha Firestone Ford, and her mother. Yeah. And I remember that when they decided to keep Matt Patricia for next year, Bob Quinn.
Yeah.
Who spoke to the media? Sheila Ford Hamp. You know, when everybody in the planet knew this was going to fail, it was already a failed experiment with the Patriots East, Patriots West, and that they needed to cut ties with Patricia and Quinn that offseason. And Hamp said, well, they deserve one more chance. And we saw how that went down, that that everybody got fired halfway through the year. So that's one thing. Another thing is owners always get booed. Owners and commissioners always get booed.
Right.
Politicians always get booed.
Right.
You know, and well, it's not her. And it's like, and the other thing I would hear is that, it's not her fault the Lions have been bad for 60 years. Yeah, but it's her family, and she is essentially the surrogate now for the family. When it comes to the Lions, they've changed players, they've changed coaches, they've changed stadiums. They've changed TV networks. They've changed everything, but there's always been one constant: the Ford family. So what do you expect fans to do? They are unhappy. The team is playing badly. Of course they're going to boo the owner of the damn team, even if she has only been, quote-unquote, up there for a year and a half as the official owner in charge, even though everybody knows she's been pulling strings for years. So she won the power struggle with her brother, essentially. So,
yeah.
So anybody who gets all upset about a billionaire being booed, she goes home and sleeps on a pile of freaking money. So I have no qualms about her getting booed. And I think it also shows that, there's online fans, or there's overly online fans, and there's everybody else. Yeah. And it's pretty obvious that there's a segment of online fans who are anti-Calvin Johnson and pretty darn vocal about it. But when you get out there in the stands on a Sunday, that was as pro of a Calvin Johnson crowd as you will see. And if you would ask if you'd ask that crowd, do you want to see the Lions just bury the hatchet, this stupid thing going out with Calvin Johnson? Yeah. That crowd would have said yes, and it's the Lions' fault. They shouldn't have cheaped out.
Yep.
That's the difference. So my jerk of the week are anybody who didn't think Sheila Ford Hamp deserved to be booed, because I don't know what planet they're living on, because the Fords deserve it. I don't care which Ford it is.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Excuse me. That's a very interesting take you have, and I'm not saying that I disagree with you, by the way. The reason I say that it's interesting is because I think what has some people, and I don't know for sure, but I think what's got some people upset about that is the optics of this. Yeah. She looks like your mother, okay? Yeah. She looks like anybody's mother up there. I know I get the money thing, and I get that her name's Ford. I understand that. And I understand that what the Ford brand is when it comes to the Lions.
Right.
But I think it was the fact that she's this petite woman up there, and she's, and I'm not. Hopefully the
God forbid it been Martha.
Well, hopefully women won't come at me, because I don't want to think like they can't handle it. Or I'm not trying to suggest that she's not a strong woman, she can't handle it. I'm just saying that the optics of this woman, again, she looks like anybody's mother. If you were to see her at the grocery store, you wouldn't. I mean, she doesn't look like. Okay. The fact that those boos were so, they were just relentless. I mean, they drowned her out. She couldn't speak. Now, when you were talking about with the politicians always get booed and mayors get booed, and
I always boo Gary Bettman. I don't care.
Commissioners get booed, but that doesn't last that long usually. It's like okay, now Gary Bettman to present the Stanley Cup. He gets a few boos. Okay,
see, I'm booing right now.
Right, he gets a few boos, and then it dissipates because of the moment. Because of the moment. He's about to deliver or present the Stanley Cup, so you get the booing out of the way. Now we want to see the Stanley Cup being presented. Okay. She's out there introducing Calvin Johnson, introducing a Hall of Famer, okay, which the Lions have precious few of, by the way.
Yeah.
And so she goes out there, and if you want to boo her, okay. But this booing was just so... It was relentless. I mean,
that was 60 years of resentment.
It was right. It was almost uncomfortable. And I'm not going to really disagree with your take, but I felt a little embarrassed for her because she I don't know that she. I know what you're saying, Al. I really do. I'm not trying to push back.
I don't think she probably expected to be booed, but not at that level.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think what got people clutching their pearls wasn't that she got booed. It's how intensely she was booed.
Yeah.
And I think the optics of, and again, I don't want the women to come after me to think that I'm trying to say that women are weak, but the optics of a woman who looks like anybody's grandmother up there, tiny little thing, just getting blistered with, she's in a happy moment. It's not like she's going out there to announce a ticket price increase.
I would call it more bittersweet because there's still not the fans realize that there's that division.
But it should be had. This is a Lion went into the Hall of Fame, okay?
And that is the Lions in the freaking nutshell that Calvin Johnson getting honored turns into another controversy.
Right. Well,
that is the Lions right there.
It's not like she went out there to announce the ticket prices were going to go up next year. She went out there for a happy occasion.
Don't give her any ideas.
She went out there for a happy occasion.
Yeah.
And you want so to make the comparison to Bettman, and those boos last like 5 seconds, they go away. It's almost like obligatory boos, like you got to boo the guy because he's the commissioner.
What always comes to mind is I remember years ago opening day, and Sonny Elliott would come out to umpire for the first pitch, and the mayor or the governor would come out, and the boos would rain down.
That's fine. Yeah. That's almost expected. That's and they know
exactly.
that.
It was tradition.
Right. They know that. That doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
They take it in good nature. But this was
right.
this was
vicious.
This was vicious.
Yeah.
This was not just a few boos. This was really bad. And she tried she's introducing Calvin Johnson. It's not like she's just babbling about the team. She's introducing a Hall of Fame player. They still wouldn't let her talk. So I'm not disagreeing with your take. I'm just trying to explain to you, not that you need my explanation, but why some of those people may have taken.
Are you mansplaining to me?
But like you said, the bottom line is you're right. It was 60 years of, and how often do you get a chance to, frankly,
that's exactly what it was.
How often do you get a chance to boo somebody like that?
Exactly. And how often does the owner of the Detroit Lions show up in that sort of setting where there's that many fans in one spot? That never ever happened.
I don't remember Bill Ford ever going out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there was no occasion for him to go out there because they didn't do anything. But I don't remember him putting himself out there. And
and Bill Ford has his own. I will give Bill Ford credit that he spoke to the media.
He would.
He talked to them relatively often, things like that.
Yeah, he would.
But since he's passed away, the ownership very rarely says anything to anyone. So, and we've complained about this when it comes to front offices, specifically owners in the past. Talk to the media a little bit.
Yeah.
Just let them know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And they can pass on those thoughts to the fan base, and maybe that kind of nips some of that stuff in the bud. But when you sit in your ivory tower and very rarely come to, I used to complain the same thing about Bob Quinn, for example, who never talked to the media. When they come down from their ivory tower and make an appearance in front of the unruly mob, they're going to get it. That's just how it is. So, yeah, I understand that. Yeah, it was maybe a little over the top, but we're both long-suffering Lions fans, so we can relate to why they were being booed.
They had to put her out there, though. They couldn't put you couldn't put anybody but her out there, because if you did that, then she'd catch flack for not going out there. She's too chicken to go out there.
Boy, just thinking they would have put Rod Wood out there.
Well,
oh my God, the roof would have come off the place.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Anyway, we need to wrap this up. We've gone this is one of our longest shows in a while, but we had a lot to talk about. There's been a lot going on. So with that, Greg, why don't you get out the thank yous and the social media stuff? Yeah,
absolutely. I want to, of course, thank Coach Creighton for talking to us, squeezing us in his busy schedule during the football season.
It's his fault we're running long.
Appreciate that. Thanks to Greg Steiner and the crew over there for making that happen, Eastern. Kind of an interesting guest, Al. I never told you this until just now.
No, these are usually surprises when you tell me these things. So
2 weeks from tonight, I have known this person for 53 of my 58 years. We've been friends since 5 years old. His name is Steve City Hall. He is a NBA junkie, and I mean junkie. He knows every player in the league. He does metrics. He's run metrics for he's contributed metrics to various organizations. He's a big time NBA guy. He reached out to me last week, said, could I come on your show and talk about the Pistons and talk about the NBA? The season's about to start. I said, let's go for it. I've been wanting to have him on the show.
That's perfect timing. Yeah.
I've been wanting to have him on the show forever. Not only is a good friend of mine, but he knows the NBA backwards and forwards. And so I'm happy to have him on with us to talk about the Pistons. And he's not a shill. In fact, he's kind of anti-Piston. This will be an interesting discussion. We'll have him on the 19th. We'll talk Pistons and the NBA. So look out for that. Follow me. Follow me on Twitter at Greg Galen. Read my Out of Bounds blog, please, on WordPress if you would. And I'll let Al talk to you about how to watch the show and listen to the show.
Yeah, now that you can promote yourself again after Facebook being down for a whole day, I didn't even realize it. I don't use, I don't use Facebook that much. I didn't even realize it was down till late in the day when I saw all the dramatics online about it. But anyway, with that, if you want to listen to the show, or you want to pass on to people how to listen to the show, we are on all the biggest and best podcast outlets: the Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Deezer. We're on Radio Public. You want to go to the mothership? That's the kneejerks.net. All the show notes and links will be right there. You can also directly download the MP3 to your computer or your phone from there and do what you will with the MP3. And also give a shout out to Linda, who is actually home tonight. She saved lives over the weekend, so I think she's home while catching up on NCIS at this time, while I'm tilting at the Detroit Sports Windmills here. And also give a shout out to Greg for sitting in the dark right now. I can barely see him. He's fairly well lit, but I'm making it sound spookier than it really is. But it's kind of fitting now that we're into Halloween season that Greg is outside. I expect next time we have a couple pumpkins around you, and or maybe Bean in a pumpkin sweater or something. So don't give your wife any ideas.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Right.
All right. With that, so let's get the hell out of here. So until this time 2 weeks from now, when we're going to be talking lots of NBA apparently. This is Al Beaton saying good evening, good luck, and aloha.
Ciao, everybody. You'll see you in a couple of weeks.